Welcome back to Cavs Cast Bobby Talks Believeland. I'm your host, Bobby Chapman, and joining me today, we have Fox Sports 1 correspondent and full-time reporter for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Luke Faranda. Luke, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, I'm not any of those things, but I like to talk to you guys, and I think I like to share my ideas.
Yeah, he's not either of those things, but he is a big fan of LeBron James, and he'll bring a lot to the show. We have a great show today. To start things out, just a quick review of where the Cavs are. They sit at 10-2, still are atop the Eastern Conference, ahead of somewhat of a surprise team, the Atlanta Hawks, who sit at 9-4 in second place right now. But the Cavs are still in first. They had two losses. They lost to the Pacers and the Hawks. Now, that Pacers game, we'll talk about in a couple minutes. That was the one where LeBron James sat out, so I don't really know if that one should count. What do you think, Luke? Just to wipe that one off. Right off the record?
Yeah, and just a side note, before that game, the Cavs were 9-1 in the East, which was tied for the best start to a season in Cavs franchise history. So there seems to be no really championship hangover or anything like that. They seem to be pretty much coasting right now, with LeBron probably going 85%.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's definitely not at full strength, but let's be honest, he really never is at full strength in the regular season. He's not in full LeBron James beast mode until he gets into the postseason. But interesting you mentioned that is the best start in franchise history. I actually didn't know that. And last night I saw something on Twitter, actually, there's another team that we're going to get to later that actually is off to their best start in franchise history as well. But looking at the last game they played, they beat the Pistons, who, if you remember, they played in the first round of the playoffs last year and actually swept. But they beat them 104-81 on Friday. Kyrie Irving, who we've been talking about a lot in the first two episodes, goes for 25 points and 11 assists. Great game out of him. Nice double-double. And LeBron goes for 21. Now, we've talked a lot about the trend of Kyrie Irving outscoring LeBron James. And last episode, we mentioned that if Kyrie Irving averages more points than LeBron James this year, which right now, I know it's early, but right now he's on track to do, if he does that, he will be the first ever teammate of LeBron James to outscore him in a season. So what do you think that says about LeBron and just how good he's been for so long?
I think that's really substantial to LeBron's legacy and how he always just takes over games. But I also I wouldn't necessarily say that this is Kyrie taking over the team. I think that we saw with LeBron sitting out against the Pistons that LeBron just does so much for the game, even at 75%, even just maybe not going his full strength, that he just controls the game, and really the team feeds off him in almost every aspect.
Yeah, they definitely do. And I mean, no one's saying that this is Kyrie Irving's team, but I think what we're going to see is maybe Kyrie Irving shouldering more of the offensive workload in the regular season. And then for the big important games, playoffs, the Warriors games that we'll see later in the regular season, I think that's when we're going to see LeBron James completely take over.
I agree.
But let's talk a little bit about that Pacers game when LeBron sat out. They end up losing 103-93. Kevin Love surprisingly went for 27, and I think Kevin Love continues to be the most unpredictable player on this team because you really never know what you're going to get from him. Sometimes he looks like a role player, and then sometimes he does stuff like this where he really kind of takes over the game for a little while.
And I like the supporting cast of Channing Frye and Richard Jefferson. I think even though Richard Jefferson's getting old, I'm not sure how old Channing Frye is, but Channing Frye is hitting his threes. Richard Jefferson is still hustling out there. I really like this supporting cast for the Cavs. I think they're a great team. And also, I don't know if Bob knows this, but I'd like to talk about Shumpert's efficiency, the old Knicks player. I know Bobby's a Knicks fan. He's been 45% from three, 60% on corner threes, and his true shooting percentage is over 70%. So you want to talk about that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to see Shumpert playing well because last year it kind of went under the radar given that the Cavs won the championship. But Shumpert really didn't have a good year last year. And now, coming off that championship, Shumpert really seems to be sort of revitalized here, and I think he definitely deserves some recognition. He's playing really well, as you mentioned. He's shooting over 45% from three, over 48% from the field, and as usual, he's playing great defense. That was sort of what they brought him here to do. And also, he's getting minutes as both a two guard and a point guard. which is a big talking point here because we talked in the first show about how the Cavs might have issues at backup point guard this year. Remember, Mo Williams retired, and Matthew Dellavedova left for the Bucks via free agency. And something we wanted to talk about was just a couple trade rumors that we're seeing in the media recently. So one thing that we're hearing is that the Cavs might try to trade for Darren Williams of the Dallas Mavericks. I could see why Darren Williams would want to get out of Dallas because the Mavs are 2-11 and have less wins than the Philadelphia 76ers, which is never a good sign. And another name that we're hearing is DJ Augustine over for the Orlando Magic, who I think is a textbook definition of a backup point guard in this league. But I think if you get Darren Williams, that's definitely an above-average backup point guard. He's fallen off a lot from where he was previously in his career. Remember how good he was for the Nets? But what do you think of these two trade options, Luke? And do you think the Cavs should pull the trigger on a trade here?
For trading with the Cavs, I'm a little skeptical just because of how solid they are right now. But any backup point guard or another piece for their team would really help. And maybe kind of joking here out of right field, Klay Thompson. There's rumors he is going to get traded. Maybe he could come to the Cavs. I think that would create a lot of drama.
Oh, that would definitely help out a little bit. I think anyone in Cleveland would welcome Klay Thompson with open arms.
Yeah.
But I don't know about this because, like you mentioned, the Cavs are playing so well right now. And a big part of their success we saw last year was the chemistry of their team. And if you bring another guy into the locker room and maybe take a guy out, you could definitely throw something off with the chemistry there. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if it'd be worth it, considering how well they're playing.
I agree.
Maybe if they fall into a lull in the middle of the season, then maybe you consider bringing in a guy who could give you a boost off the bench. But for right now, I don't think I would consider that if I were them.
Just with where the chemistry is right now, I think the Cavs are just very, very good at closing out games. They know what they're doing. The chemistry is just really on point. And trades, quite frankly, scare me for this team. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, if they could just pick a guy up without giving anyone up, I'd be all for it. But I really just do not think they should be giving anyone up right now. Even like their role players are playing so well. You mentioned Channing Frye shooting the three so well. And that's important in this league because you have to shoot the three well, especially nowadays.
Dellavedova is doing great is he on the Bucks now?
The Bucks, yeah.
He's doing very good there. I love Delly, so.
Yeah, that was sad to see him go. But back to that Pacers game. Really, the big talking point of that game was that LeBron James did not play. Now, there were a lot of people that were upset that he sat out. Watching SportsCenter, I saw all these ESPN analysts say that he shouldn't be sitting out. That's not what a leader does. I even heard guys say that you should sit out a home game rather than a road game, which I think is ridiculous. People are saying, oh, well, because people from the cities that they visit will buy tickets just to see LeBron play, and that if he doesn't play, then that's inconsiderate to the fans. But honestly, what do you think about that? Because I think it's just stupid, honestly.
Yeah, I'd hate to be that fan to pay $80, $100 for a ticket and not see LeBron play, see him sit that game. But I understand what Lou's trying to do. I understand they're trying to limit his minutes. He's been going strong for how many years now, and I know that takes a toll on his body. But I feel for the fans. I mean, I want to see him play in person like everybody else, and if he sits during the game I go to, I'd be extremely upset. But I kind of agree with Lou in an aspect. You'd hate to see this guy get hurt. He seems like a freaking cyborg, but anyone can get hurt, and I think sitting out a few games can be helpful for him and his health.
Yeah, and I mean, what was it, last year or the year before? We saw LeBron take about 2 weeks to sit. He just didn't play. He took some time off, and then he came back, and he was a monster, and the Cavs started playing substantially better. So at the end of the day, sitting LeBron gives this team a better chance to win. When he sits and gets rest periodically, this team is better. And really, it's not LeBron's job to keep Indiana's fan base happy. It's not. It's not his job to sell tickets for the Indiana Pacers. It's his job to win championships. And sitting out periodically in the regular season gives the Cavs the best chance to win. So I think we should really just dismiss everyone that wants to criticize him for not playing. Mm-hmm. But let's move on to another story that we saw revolving around LeBron James and the New York Knicks president of basketball operations, Phil Jackson. So, for those of you who have not heard, though I'm sure you have by now, Phil Jackson, in an interview, referred to LeBron James and his friends and business partners as a posse. So, LeBron James took offense to Phil Jackson using the word posse. And when he was asked about it, he said that he had lost all respect for Phil Jackson. Now, LeBron's business partner, Maverick Carter, who is a part of that so called posse that Phil Jackson was referring to, seemed to be even more upset than LeBron was. And he went on a huge rant on Twitter. And then we saw LeBron come out in the media and side with his friend Maverick Carter and say that he had lost all respect for Phil Jackson. So before I get into what I think about this story, what do you think about it, Luke? What was your first reaction, and how has that maybe changed with some of the developments we've seen?
Well, I think Phil Jackson was trying to be, I don't know what he was trying to do, trying to be funny or trying to be hip with what he was saying. But number one, there is a racial connotation with the word posse. I agree with that. And I agree with LeBron being mad in that aspect. And number two, it devalues the LeBron's business partners in a way, which I also do not agree with. And I definitely feel for LeBron, and he's trying to establish his name as best as he can, and his business partners. Um, they should frankly be mad at this. Phil Jackson's a big name, and he shouldn't be messing around with LeBron.
Yeah, that's true. And first of all, let me just say that LeBron's friends, LeBron's business partners, LeBron himself, they absolutely deserve respect. They absolutely do. So if Phil Jackson was deliberately disrespecting them, I could see why everyone would be upset. I understand it. They're all very successful, great people. Obviously, LeBron has come a long way with these people that he has surrounding him. I heard in the news a couple weeks ago they actually sold his firm or whatever. Actually sold a concept for a comedy movie to a major studio
He's
the
doing
other
some
week.
acting now, LeBron.
Yeah, so it's not just success on the court that LeBron has. He's very successful off the court. He does very well as an investor. I remember when Apple acquired Beats by Dre, LeBron made a six-figure profit on that as a
Yes.
part owner of Dre Beats.
Mm-hmm.
So he's making all the right decisions on and off the court, and I think the people that he surrounds himself probably have a great deal to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very good group of people, and they should not be disrespected at all. But that being said, I don't think Phil Jackson was trying to disrespect him in any way. I mean, if you go back and look at the interview, what Phil Jackson was doing, he was really criticizing LeBron for sort of having a sense of entitlement in Miami. And he was talking about a situation where they had a road trip to Cleveland, and the team wasn't going to stay over. They were just going to fly back to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But LeBron kind of strongmanned his way into making the team stay for a night so that he could stay with his family in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Phil Jackson was talking about when he made this comment. So I think LeBron was initially upset by just the criticism that Phil Jackson was giving him on his attitude. And I think that's what he was initially offended by. But then when his friend Maverick Carter goes on Twitter, I think he kind of made it a race thing. And once LeBron saw that it was kind of turned into a race thing, obviously he's going to side with his friend Maverick Carter.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's going to be a little bit upset about that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Phil Jackson is a racist. I mean, do you think that he meant this as a racial comment, or do you think it was just a poor word choice?
I think it was definitely a poor word choice, and he needs to be more careful because he's such a big figure, and him making a statement like this can go wrong like this, and it did go wrong.
Yeah, it definitely did. So I mean, I put the fault here. If there's any blame, I put it on Phil Jackson just for a poor word choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a racist. I don't think he meant it like that at all, even if it did come across like that. But I mean, we've seen recently that LeBron is very outspoken when it comes to social and racial issues. I mean, this stuff is important to him. So when something is perceived as having racial undertones, I can see why LeBron would feel the need to speak on it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes perfect sense, and he should.
And in other business, LeBron James news as well, he donated $2.5 million to the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture for its Muhammad Ali exhibit, which I think is really good, really cool for just him and what he does for being the face of the league. What do you think about that, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you like how important this stuff is to him. So I mean, when you've got a guy that's so active socially, that's doing so much for all these racial issues. Remember at the ESPYS, him, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony,
Hmm.
after all these police shootings, they went on stage and they had a message that everyone needs to be united. So you see how important it is to him. And I think Phil Jackson must have been very upset with himself for turning this into an issue.
Definitely.
But hopefully it'll blow over. And maybe now we can talk a little more basketball. I know you wanted to talk about this a little bit, Luke, but this Raptors game that they played. So a few days ago, the Cavs beat the Raptors. They win 121 to 117. And LeBron James was the story of the game. He goes for 28 points, 14 assists, 9 rebounds. 1 rebound away from a triple-double. Kyrie Irving also had a good game with 24 points and 5 assists. But it was a big game. You're playing the team that probably is still your biggest threat in the East.
In the East.
And it was a pretty convincing win. I don't think that game was as close as the score indicated. But it was a big game, and it almost had a playoff-like atmosphere. And obviously, if anything is even close to a playoff atmosphere, you're going to get a freak game out of LeBron James like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see him step up and take over, and you're going to see Kyrie Irving kind of slide over to the passenger seat so LeBron can be LeBron and do what he does.
I mean, how many games have you seen this guy get one point away from a triple-double? He's probably had 30-plus games like this. I mean, he's the real deal. And I think a reporter asked him during the game if the elbow was a good place for him on the court, and he responded, "As soon as I step on the floor, that's a good place for me." So his confidence is definitely still there, and I like the confidence. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, and I mean, confidence is definitely a big part of anyone's game of basketball, really. We talked in the previous episode about how LeBron James taking kind of these little passive-aggressive shots at the Warriors. I think what he's doing is trying to remind them of how they lost last year and just detract from their confidence a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But LeBron, a very confident player, and it really was encouraging to see the Cavs handle their business against this team. Just letting everyone know they are still the best team in the Eastern Conference by far, and they really just seem to be clicking. And it was a great game to watch.
Now, Bobby, do you think the Western Conference is by far still better than the Eastern Conference?
Oh, 100%.
You see the Raptors improving, but you also see teams like the Lakers improving in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the East has any chance of being as good as the Western Conference in this upcoming year or the next year?
No, I really don't. And I'd like to, because I like the East. Like you mentioned, I'm a Knicks fan. I cover the Cavaliers. I would love to see the East be as good as the West because that would just make things more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think it's close. I mean, really, when we look at it, how many teams in the East are really capable of making a run at a championship this year? It's one. There's one team. It's just the Cavs. There's no one else. I mean,
the Celtics are getting better, but not this year.
No, not yet for the Celtics. They still need a superstar. I don't think Isaiah Thomas is exactly a superstar yet.
I don't even think Al Horford's a good fit.
I don't know. Yeah, the Celtics maybe in a couple years. The Hawks are in second place. Are the Atlanta Hawks winning a championship? Not even close. Nope. That's never going to happen. With Dwight Howard, you think a team with Dwight Howard on it can contend for a championship?
They're just not
Absolutely
a postseason team. They've never really been in the recent period of time.
No, they're not. They just aren't. So, I mean, you look at the West, and you've got the Warriors, you've got the Spurs, the Thunder, people were talking about as maybe a title contender. I personally don't agree with that, but the fact that they're just in the conversation at all shows you something about the West. You've got the Clippers
are a great team.
Who are now playing the best basketball, really, that we've seen them play in a long time.
I agree.
And the West is just much deeper. I mean, you even look at the bottom of the West. Teams like the Timberwolves are at the bottom. I think the Timberwolves are a great team.
And the 76ers won their first back-to-back game since, I think, 2000, very early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, the Sixers are getting better, which is nice to see. But I don't think anyone's calling the Sixers anything close to a title contender. And at the end of the day, top to bottom, the West is just miles ahead of the East.
Do you think this thwarts Cavs' chances of getting better during the regular season, or do you think they're not even trying to get better during the season? They're trying to maintain their level right now?
Yeah, I think they're just going to try to maintain this. And then when the playoffs roll around, I think being in the Eastern Conference is actually going to be a huge advantage for the Cavs. because I think they're just going to have a cakewalk to the finals. I really do. There's no team, I think, that can even take them to 7 games in the Eastern Conference. Meanwhile, over in the West, you're going to have a dogfight.
Yeah,
and
more fatigue going into the finals.
Yeah, exactly.
More injuries.
You're going to have to go through 2, 3 very good teams in the West to even make the finals, and that takes a toll. You're going to be fatigued. You're going to be banged up a little. You're going to have some guys hurt. And meanwhile, LeBron James, the best player in the world, is not even going to have to break a sweat in the Eastern Conference.
Might sit out some games.
He could. Honestly, he could sit. If the Cavs go up 3-0 in the playoffs, maybe in the first round, I would consider sitting LeBron James in Game 4. Maybe. Because who's going to beat them in the first round? The Pistons? The Bucks? No. But we'll look at that. We'll look at that as a possibility when the playoffs roll around. Almost out of time here, but some upcoming games I think we should take a look at. This Wednesday, tomorrow night, I think we're going to have an interesting one here. We have the Trailblazers of Portland coming to town to take on the Cavaliers at the Q in Cleveland. And I think this is going to be an interesting game. The Trailblazers had a great year last year, really exceeded everyone's expectations. They ended up beating the Clippers in that playoff series to get to the second round in the West, which we just talked about is very hard to advance in the playoffs. And you have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, who was the breakout player of the year last year, and Lillard, who is emerging as an early MVP candidate. And this is the guy that Steve Kerr came out before the season and said that Damian Lillard will win MVP. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch the matchup between Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard. That's what I'm going to be looking at in this game.
Yeah, I agree with your thoughts on Lillard, Bob. I think he is a very clutch player, which you don't see that often. And I think he is a true star on that team. And I think CJ McCollum, where did CJ McCollum go to college? Do you know?
I do not know. No.
Did he go to Syracuse?
Did he?
I don't think so.
I don't think he did.
But I think he is an emerging, very good player on that team as well. I think all his shots are falling. He is getting better. And Lillard is one of the best players, hands down, in the NBA right now.
Yeah, he 100% is. I mean, where do we put Lillard in the NBA? Or is he top 10? Because I think he might be.
I think he's top 10 for sure. I'm not sure
you've
about
got
top
the
5.
top 5. LeBron at number 1, clearly.
Yeah.
Curry. Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Westbrook, I think, is the top 5. I think that's pretty much agreed on.
Yes.
Across the league. And then who do you put? I think you might put Lillard even at 6.
Maybe.
Think about it.
I mean, you got some of the guys like Klay Thompson that don't get enough recognition.
That's true. Yeah, Klay Thompson definitely deserves to be in the top 10.
But yeah, those spots in the top 10 that are 5 through 10. It's I think Lillard could be number 6 or maybe number 6.
I think definitely top 10.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that we're talking about him as a top 10 player in the league, and he didn't even make the All-Star team last year. Think about that. That is completely ridiculous. How did this guy not make the All-Star team last year? He was completely overlooked, and I think that has sort of become part of the identity of this Portland team. Everyone overlooks them. No one ever thinks they're going to do very well. Everyone just sleeps on them, and then they blow you away every year, it seems.
Yeah, so this should be a very good game coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, and with that matchup between Lillard and Kyrie Irving, we've mentioned how great Kyrie Irving has started out. I mean, I think this is clearly the best start of Kyrie Irving's career to a season. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to look at the defensive side of the ball. Because last year in the playoffs, I mean, Kyrie Irving has never really played a whole lot of defense. But last year in the playoffs, as the games became more and more important, we kind of saw Kyrie become a pretty good defender. So he's going to have his hands full with Damian Lillard. We know that he's going to get his offensively. Kyrie Irving will score some points. He will create. He will facilitate. But I think it'll be interesting to see how he defends Damian Lillard.
I got a sort of general question for you about Kyrie, Bob. He's probably around 24-ish, 23, 24. 1 year at Duke, and then he was right to the NBA. Do you think he is now hitting his prime? Do you think he has more room to grow in some aspects of the game, maybe his defense? And when do you think him being in his prime will surpass LeBron and him kind of taking the role of this team? Do you see it this year and 2 years from now? Elaborate. You can explain that.
Well, as far as him being in his prime, I actually think he won't hit his peak for another 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
He is only 23, 24, somewhere around there. I think when he's 25, 26, 27, I think that's when we'll see him at his best. Just speaking as that's a sort of general trend in the NBA. That's what we saw with Curry. That's what we saw sort of with LeBron. He kind of hit his. I wouldn't even call it a peak with him. It was sort of a plateau because he's just been at the same dominant, great level ever since he got there back when he was 26, 27 years old. But I think he still has a year or two before he gets to his very best. I don't think we've seen the best from Kyrie Irving. I think we're seeing glimpses of it now. And I also think we're seeing glimpses of him maybe start to take this team over from LeBron James. I don't think it's happened yet, but when LeBron is sitting, resting, not at 100% in the regular season, like we've talked about, and we see Kyrie Irving going off in games like this, I think that's just a glimpse of the future. Not yet, because obviously whenever LeBron James wants to, he can just turn it on and be the most dominant player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple years down the line, when LeBron's body starts to wear away a little bit, I think we're going to see Kyrie Irving start to take over this team.
I mean, you see it in Game 7. The man is beyond clutch. Maybe he gets that from LeBron. I'm not sure, but he is beyond clutch. He hit that three to pretty much win the game, win the series against.
Yeah, right in Steph Curry's eye. Right in Steph Curry's eye.
His dribbling is insane. His layups are out of this world. I think he will be the best player in the NBA come a year or two, and one of the best players right now.
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, I think when LeBron James is sitting out or when LeBron James is taking it easy, it's a preview of in 3-4 years down the line when this becomes Kyrie Irving's team, because that will happen. It's just a matter of when.
Mm-hmm.
But we are almost out of time. Looking forward, let's look at some of the upcoming games on the Cavs schedule. After that Trailblazers game on Wednesday, they have the Dallas Mavericks on Friday, who I mentioned are struggling greatly, and then the 76ers on Sunday. So a little bit of an easy stretch there.
Process. LeBron meets the process.
Yeah, I mean, and let's remember earlier this year, in the first matchup between these two teams, the process, Joel Embiid had that monster block on LeBron James. I don't think it ended up counting because it was goaltending, but that was one of the most athletic things I've ever seen. But don't see the Cavs losing either of those two games. And then on December 1st, we have a great game. The Los Angeles Clippers come to Cleveland to play the Cavs. And I think this is going to be an early candidate for Game of the Year in the NBA, because the Clippers have started out 12-2, and that's the best start in franchise history. This is by far the best we have seen the Clippers play in this Doc Rivers, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan era. So what do you think of the Clippers, Luke, and what we've seen from them so far? And how confident are you in the Cavs going into this game?
I think the Clippers could easily take this game. They've shown themselves as a dominant team in the West. I think Blake Griffin is still a great player. Chris Paul keeps amazing me. I think I'm waiting for his decline, but I see amazing passes. I see in the highlights and watching their games. This man is still amazing and still at very good level of basketball. So I'm impressed with the Clippers, and I think they could take this game away from the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely could. I mean, it benefits the Cavs having the Mavs, teams like the Mavs and the 76ers leading up. So I think they could even get LeBron some rest in those games. But then this Clippers game, believe me, LeBron will not be taking it easy at all. And I think we're going to see this as one of those games that LeBron steps up and just takes everything over and completely dominates.
I could see that.
And I think it's going to be a great game to watch. But I think the Cavs will take it. I really do. They're playing great basketball right now, and I just don't think anyone in this league is good enough to beat them right now. By far the title favorite at this point.
They just got to keep up their level right now. They can't decline. Their chemistry's perfect right now. I mean, they got to keep coasting.
Yeah, I mean, they keep playing like this, and they're going to run into a Golden State Warriors team in the finals, I think, and we're going to get a great series.
I agree.
But that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening. Luke, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been great. Listen again next time. This has been Cavs Cast. Bobby Talks Believeland.